Hello and welcome to the Bentleigh Report. My name's Gary Peer.
I'm Leon Guzenfitter.
We are in October 2019. How soon it's come around?
It's come very quickly, Gary.
The year's flown, and what a difference 6 months or a year makes in real estate, because how different is the market now to how it was, say, October last year?
October last year, I think, if you just look at even the mentality from buyers, when they look at a price guide, October last year, something was 9 to 990, they reckon there were a pretty good chance of buying it in the low to mid nines, because that's what a lot of things were selling in the bottom, and some things sold under the range. The market was trending down, and now I think the buyer psychology is looking at price guides, and well, a lot of them are going over just because the market's rising. So
that's what's happening out there. So even though vendors have got a willingness to sell in the price guide, there is competition that's taking it beyond. Whereas last year there wasn't that competition. And last year, from an agent's point of view, we're going to auctions, saying, okay, let's see if we can find a buyer, negotiate a sale, and at best we'll get two. Now 4 buyers, 5 buyers. Things are getting snapped up.
People coming on the day, Gary, which is a really big sign. People come on the day and just make a decision straight away. So
that's a really interesting psychology, because, and I've always thought that's fascinating, because people will go and buy television and spend a month checking prices and checking out and looking at a deal, or a car but sometimes people walk up to a house, they won't know it structurally, they won't know about the documents of the property, if there's any restriction, they'll just bid and buy it, and it'll be the greatest purchase of their lives. But invariably those people have usually bought okay as well, because when you're buying real estate in Melbourne, over time you're just about always going to be okay. But let's talk a bit about what is hot out there right now.
Still land, Gary. We spoke about it last month, and about a year ago, if you want to look at the psychology, I couldn't give away, but no one was ringing saying, Leon, give me a block of land, I want to build 2 townhouses, and I'm going to develop and live in one or sell, whatever it is. Now it's back, everyone's ringing. What have you got? Can you get 2 on a lot? What have you got? Have you got anything off market? Well, they're going to take an offer before. I would almost say, Gary, that the 18 months of decline that we had, I think we've gained 80% of that decline back in 2 months.
And I'm sure...
If not even right at the top.
And the rest will be filled if it hasn't been already. So there's a bit of an understanding, a bit of a quick snapshot summary of what's going on out there in the market.
Land, and the McKinnon School Zone's hot again, Gary. It went a bit cool there for a minute.
Really?
Just for, everything cooled for a bit. Everything cooled, but now there's the prices and are really up there to the top.
And this is what a lot of vendors, didn't understand. I suppose when things went off, when you say everything's cool, somebody might have wanted to buy a home in the zone as much as ever before, but they weren't getting the price for their home, so they just couldn't. So they couldn't. If they couldn't get 800, they couldn't spend 1.3, so they have to spend 1.2. And this is the ripple effect. But very positive. Of course, Liberal government retaining its position as the government made a big difference, because there were a couple of challenging tax, property tax issues there that people were uncertain about, and of course the release of funds, the interest rates low, all that combination has really stimulated things.
And low stock, Gary. Low stock.
Well, that hasn't changed much, has it? I mean, that's the other problem. I mean, we haven't got no glut of stock. There's still a real shortage out there.
I feel like everyone who sat down at the start of the year, they sat down and said, are we selling a house? No, market's negative, and just put the thought of selling out of their mind. And only now they're waking up going, hey, I hear the market's okay. And that's where we're hoping, fingers crossed, there's a bit better supply in the early part of 2020, which we're already listing for, but we're hoping that there is a better supply for the buyers and for everyone to function.
Well, it's for the first time we've been able to look at our like-for-like, this time last year, the volume of listings to this time this year, and we're actually up, so that's quite extraordinary.
I'd love to see what it was compared to 2 years ago, when the things you don't want to look.
Don't look at that. No. That's just a depressing stat.
It would be depressing.
That would be a sick stat. But anyway, let's talk about some of the sales that have happened to give people an understanding of where the market's at. Centre Road, Brighton East. Tell us a little bit about that sale.
Yeah, that was a thumping auction. That was it was about a month ago now. I think we had 6 bidders. A lot of discussion with the vendors who were selling mum's home. It was a bit of a sold with a heavy heart, and we're sort of thinking we'd get into mid-8s, and we had a lot of people through hoping to get high 8s, and there was a hope to get $9 million. There you go. $1 million on the dot, and a lovely young couple bought it and just settled it yesterday, actually. So it was a really quick settlement, and we wish them a really good time there, and we'll see you hopefully in about 5 years. We'll move you on again.
Tell us a bit about Stewart Street, Ormond. That's a property that we both had the pleasure of working on.
Absolutely. You called the auction?
I called the auction, and it was an interesting auction too. Quite an amazing property, really, because it had a lot going for it, didn't it? It had a beautiful facade, a beautiful block of land. Tell us a little bit about it.
I think if you look at the features that people want, a residential street, nice quiet street, west side of the street, deep block, good frontage, in a good school zone, McKinnon school zone, and probably the absolute blank canvas where it had a really pretty home that was rentable and livable, but probably could do with some modernisation and extension.
And the person that bought it is actually an architect, I think.
Perfect. Right? Young couple. It was actually Stuart and Stewart Street bought that. We won't give the surname, but Stuart and Stewart Street.
I said to Stuart, if you get pulled up by the cops and you say, my name's Stuart, I live in Stewart Street, they'll be sending you off by the night because they'll think you're being a smarty pants. But anyway, very, very nice couple. They did their due diligence. They had it all checked carefully, and they're going to make.
I think they're going to do something fantastic there.
So yeah, if you want to drive past 37 Stewart Street in a year's time, you'll probably see a transformed, magnificent home, and probably hard to put too much money into a house like that if you're going to stay around, because the address is good, the land's good, the orientation is good, and the style of the home is good. Tucker Road was a big one, a boomer.
Thumper. We know it was big. We had Channel 9 there.
Yeah.
Channel 9 with a big camera.
Yeah.
The big scary camera.
Yeah, light just went off for me then, but go on, yep, okay.
And we sort of thought, based on there was actually 2 other sales on Tucker Road on corners in the last 4 weeks before that auction. So we had some exact data, and we did some precedents. And look, to be fair, while we did stage the home and sort of did the garden and all this, it was an original condition, and the home was a bit tired. But we made it look as good as it can. We celebrated it. We had 6 people bid. And all the evidence said it'll probably be $1 million or a tad over if it gets competitive. 1301, Gary.
And that's what's, and I suppose goes back to the start of the show, talking about land being hot. There's a great example of it. The other thing that I'm feeling is very strong in Bentleigh and surrounds, and correct me if I'm wrong, is townhouses. I mean, they were really, there was a lot around. They were hard to get, financed, hard to get a run of bidders or popular. They weren't happening out there. Now, has that changed?
Well, I think as the land's gone up, one of the reasons it was hard to sell the townhouses is people could afford the full block. Now the land's coming up, people can't get the full block. And they think, you know what, I'm going to get a beautiful brand new place. It probably is as big internally as most houses are.
Of course, we're talking about the one in Mackey Road now.
Yeah, and the one in Mackey Road, I think last time we did this show, I said, Gary, by the time, just go and buy this. Whoever's watching, I hope there's someone watching, go and buy this because it won't last very long. And I think within 24 hours of doing that show, it was sold.
The power of the Bentleigh Report. Look what happens. Have you got the tax lotto numbers for this weekend?
No, I wouldn't be here if I were.
Fair enough. Margaret Street, Moorabbin, well, that's certainly part of the loop of where we're active, and I suppose interesting areas like Moorabbin and Bentleigh East and Brighton East, I should say. Moorabbin, Brighton East, Hampton East, all those areas seem to be...
Hyde and Cheltenham, that's all coming into the mix.
And it's a beautiful convergence of where all of our offices are, because of course our corporate office services, up to and around and over North Road. You're coming in from that side, and the Bayside office as well is servicing that area. Tell us about that sale in Moorabbin.
It was a terrific sale. I mean, first of all, we had a private sale. We had a client that went to auction with another agent a year ago. Didn't sell, didn't get a bid, didn't get anything. It was a bit, once bitten, twice shy, as they say. Was a bit scared to have a second auction. So said, you can have it as a private sale, and his dream price is 1350. Last year was 13. Sorry, he was chasing 1250 last year, but he said if I can get 13, it's my dream. But I'll probably sell it 1250. We had a private sale at 13. Second Saturday of our campaign, we identified 2 buyers.
One of those buyers was actually sent from our database through the
property. To have a look at the property, and sure enough, we actually sold it for more than the asking price, which is sold for $1,310,000. So a happy client there, and it's funny when we do even meet the new people coming through. So the people that came to the Open in Moorabbin, when we put their name in our iPads, they've come to all our opens in Bentleigh, in East Brighton, in Carnegie. People are moving around for value and for transport and schooling.
That's the power of a database and an agent that uses it effectively. And of course, the buyers and sellers are winners, because if you're going to tell your buyers about other properties, then they've got the opportunity to see things that they don't have to actually go proactively searching. So they can be reactive to us. And of course, the vendors get the opportunity to have a wider spread.
And Moorabbin is just to interrupt, Gary, it's terrific. That little pocket of Moorabbin. So the interesting thing about this property is when you walk through the backyard, there's a gate, and you walk out the back gate, and it's the car park to the St Kilda Football Club. So there's the back of the Moorabbin Oval, and it was such a terrific location. It pretty much had a backyard big enough to kick the football. It was a very unique feature of that townhouse, but to have that St Kilda Football Club grounds behind was a real little bonus.
Saints supporter, you're certainly going to love it. Let's talk about some of our new listings that are coming up, because we have not got the Hill Street Blues, but we've got the Hill Street Buzz, because we've got a property coming up there, Hill Street Bentleigh East. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
So it's a double-storey modern townhouse in what I would call an affordable range for
680 to 730. That sounds like good value.
Absolutely, 2 bedrooms, 2.5 bath, two bathrooms, double storey, lock-up garage. only a couple of years old, and the owners just spruced it up to make sure it looks and feels as new.
You better get there quickly. The auction's this weekend, as is this property in Brighton East in Thomas Street. Another great looking property. Take us through it. We're in it right now.
We are, and it is terrific, and it actually has been quite popular. It's very unique because it's not the full-size townhouse. We've had 4 or 5 sales of townhouses on Thomas Street this year that have been around that 30 square mark.
We are the Thomas Street experts, I reckon.
Absolutely.
Does anyone sell more in Thomas Street than we do? I can't imagine they could. No, go on.
Possibly.
Yep. If you live on Thomas Street, sell with us.
And those have been going 1.7, that kind of price point. And this is going to be in the 1.1, 1.2, maybe 1.3 range, depending on competition. But it has been beautifully done. Even if you're not in the market for it, if you can get to the opens before the auction, it's as well put together in terms of quality of the finish as I've seen. I think the owners spent too much, and I've told them that. And that could be a benefit to one of our buyers.
A buyer wins when an owner spends too much if they can get good value, and it looks like that is good value. Mortimer Street, Bentleigh. Where is Mortimer Street, Bentleigh? I've gone a little bit, having a little bit of a senior moment.
Just runs into Tucker Road, just south of Patterson Road.
No, I know where you are.
You know where we are. Not far from the sale where we had at Tucker Road. We're just right in the little pocket, but this is a front one of 2, so it's basically a home, but there are 2 dwellings on the block. Very entry level into the Bentleigh market for a property that doesn't need any money spent on it. We've got $850 to $920 on it, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. Started last weekend, had a fair few people through it actually. So again, sub $1 million's very hard to find now, Gary. So if you've got a budget up to $1 million, it might not be that high. In the 9s, that might be a good one to have a look at.
Gladwin Avenue, well, that's a street I know well. Take us through the property.
Well, this property, Gary. When I was about 7, I drove a car for the first time ever as a result of that property. Because as a 7-year-old.
What do you mean you drove a car?
Well, I mean, what happened was, so my great aunt and great uncle, Clara and Roma, if you're watching, Roman and Clara, if you're watching, that was their home. Okay. And we were over there for a family gathering. I don't know how I got to it, but my uncle Roman, police don't be watching this, let me sit on his lap. Yeah. And sure enough, I steered the car and we did a bit of a lap of the streets, and he only made one mistake.
What's that?
He let me do it because every other time we went to their house, I insisted until he basically had to give in and give me a little lap around the roundabout there.
When you were probably 13, just grab the keys and did it yourself.
That's it. But that's a little story for me as a little boy in that house. But this is a really good opportunity, Gary. The house is very livable, very rentable, might be improvable, but it could be, subject to council approval, a really good 2-unit site in the McKinnon Secondary School zone, just over 600 square metres, a little bit wider at the front, 52 feet rather than 50. Very entry level into that price point, into that school zone as well. So if you're a buyer in that 1.2, 1.3 mark, this is a really, really good starting point to be in that zone.
We're going to test the age difference here. Does the comment, "Are your McLeans showing," mean anything to you?
Yeah, it used to be an old,
are your McLeans showing?
Well,
you know what that was?
Yeah, it was a Colgate ad, wasn't it? Or McLean's ad.
McLean's ad, and we're in McLean Avenue.
We are in McLean's. Very good, very sharp there, Gary. We have sold. We had a thumping auction there in May. You did it.
I did.
We had about 5 bidders.
I know.
I think we must have impressed these people, which we kind of know anyway, but I think we impressed them enough.
Why wouldn't we?
And they've given us an opportunity to be back in McLean Avenue. We started last weekend, had a good attendance, but a really beautiful home. As Philip and I approach it for the first time, and Philip says, this is a really good looking home, and he wasn't...
And thanks a lot, by the way, Vendor, for giving Philip the gig and not me. Really appreciate that. Pressed them so much, they decided to use my partner as the auctioneer. Anyway, great home.
Great home, and they've just, they've got it looking absolutely fantastic. It's got a beautiful north-facing yard at the back. Nice. I think it's the perfect allotment of land for one home. It's just under 600 square metres. Yep. And I think any more than that, you start competing with the developers and so on. And not this house is a developer's house, but it's a right size block for one home, 4-bed, 2-bath. Don't have to spend $1. Great street. Those streets just running off Thomas Street are really performing well. Brighton Secondary School Zone, speaking of school zones, is really coming up in the calculations as McKinnon might get a little bit expensive or full. So if you've got children looking to go to Brighton Secondary, that's a good one. And you're looking for a north-facing home around the 1.4, 1.5 mark, that is as good as it gets.
Now we're running out of time, so we have to wrap up with Robinson Street. Brighton East's got a few, but we have to speed along. Great address.
It is a great address, and I'm glad we're finishing on this one, Gary, because every episode I identify a buy. I say this is a buy, bang, snaps up.
Leon's buy of the week. Leon's, what we need is, and we'll have to see if our video people can help with this, we need Leon's screaming buy of the week. And now we hear a scream. Oh, a shrieking scream. That was good.
We could look very silly if there's no sound effects coming over.
No,
but
there is. Leon's screaming buy of the week
is...
Okay, go on.
1 Robinson Street, Brighton East.
Good.
Why? Why? Just because I think it's got a lot of very good parts to it. Where it's first of all, it's 8 to 880, so it's sub $1 million. It's in Brighton East, and it's on the beach side of Brighton East, which tends to be a bit more expensive,
a bit more prestigious. I know. We sold a house in that street for a lot of money a few years ago.
We sold 2 houses in that street for a lot of money. Actually,
fair enough. Yeah, well into the millions, many multiple millions. Yes.
But this one, it would be great for a first home buy. It would be great for a downsizer. It's 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom. It's got a little courtyard. 8 to 880.
That sounds like a great buy.
Is a screaming sound effect. Goodbye.
Good.
So if you're looking for something sub $1 million that hasn't got 10 in the block and hasn't got anyone attached on every wall and upstairs and everything, 1 Robinson Street, Brighton East, I think should go very well.
Should we slip our final 2 sales in very quickly?
Yeah.
Because we've got 2 more to review. We've got one here, Lily Mill Road, Ormond, but we have to be really quick on that. Tell us about it.
High 6s, early 7s, a really good size but nearly original condition villa unit. Would go particularly well, I would have thought.
And love this one in Boorand Road. This is a beautiful property. 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, double parking. I know Jack Slater's been excited about it. I've met the vendor, and I know that's a high quality property coming up in Ormond as well.
It is, and it backs onto my old football ground, EE Gun Reserve, sort of back onto that area where I used to star.
Is that right? You were the gun of EE Gun? Or so you think?
No, I remember my mates came down, Mardo and a couple of boys came in and watched me play a game, and I played at full back, and I played on a guy that looked like Warren Treadray, who used to be a player for Port Adelaide. He was bald, but he was just muscly and he was strong, and about halfway through the first quarter, he'd kicked 3 on me, and I couldn't. All I could hear was the giggles for my mates just as in.
Well, you know, Philip thought he was a good footballer. I remember the last time Philip went to actually try out with the team, just went to training, and about 20 minutes in, they found him throwing up behind a tree. So that's as far as he got. I just saved myself from embarrassment, just stayed home and watched footy on television. It felt great.
It's a smart move.
Anyway, that's a big wrap on the GPTV Bentleigh edition, or the Bentleigh Report, as we like to call it. It's October. There's not a lot of time left this year to buy or sell.
List, Gary.
You want us to list and sell, you better call this man for Bentleigh straight away, because we are filling our November and December now. And certainly if you're thinking about something early next year, you can get on the books now with a whole lot of benefits that we'd be happy to speak to you about as well. But that is a big wrap on the Bentleigh Report. My name's Gary Peer.
I'm Leon Guzenfitter.
We'll see you next month.
See you then.